Yo, what's good? We're back with the War of Art. I'm trialing a new camera. I'm hoping things work and work smoothly. Worst case scenario, I might have to re-record. We're starting at page 82. A professional is prepared. I'm not talking about craft. That goes without saying. The professional is prepared at a deeper level. He is prepared each day to confront his own self-sabotage. The professional understands that resistance is fertile and ingenious. It will throw stuff at him that he's never seen before. The professional prepares mentally to absorb blows and to deliver them. His aim is to take what the day gives him. He is prepared to be prudent and prepared to be reckless, to take a beating when he has to, and to go for the throat when he can. He understands that the field alters every day. His goal is not victory. Success will come by itself when it wants to, but to handle himself and his insides as sturdily and steadily as he can. A professional does not show off. A professional's work has style. It is distinctively his own, but he doesn't let his signature grandstand for him. His style serves the material. He does not impose it as a means of drawing attention to himself. This doesn't mean that the professional doesn't throw down a 360 tomahawk jam from time to time just to let the boys know he's still in business. A professional dedicates himself to mastering the technique. The professional respects his craft. He does not consider himself superior to it. He recognizes the contributions of those who have gone before him. He apprentices himself to them. The professional dedicates himself to mastering technique, not because he believes the technique is a substitute for inspiration, but because he wants to be in possession of the full arsenal of skills when inspiration does come. The professional is sly. He knows that by toiling beside the front door of technique, he leaves room for genius to enter by the back. A professional does not hesitate to ask for help. Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer in the world. Yet he has a teacher. He works with Butch Harmon. And Tiger doesn't endure this instruction or suffer through it. He revels in it. It's his keenest professional joy to get out there on the practice tee with Butch, to learn more about the game he loves. Tiger Woods is the consummate professional. It would never occur to him, as it would to an amateur, that he knows everything or can figure everything on his own. On the contrary, he seeks out the most knowledgeable teacher and listens with both ears. The student of the game knows that the levels of revelation that can unfold in golf, as in any art, are inexhaustible. A professional distances herself from her instrument. The pro stands at one remove from her instrument, meaning her person, her body, her voice, her talent, the physical, mental, emotional, and psychological being she uses in her work. She does not identify with this instrument. It is simply what God gave her. What she has to do is work with it. She assesses it coolly, impersonally, objectively. The professional identifies with her consciousness and her will, not with the matter that her consciousness and will manipulate to serve her art. Does Madonna walk around the house in cone bras and the come F me bustiers? She's too busy planning D-Day. Madonna does not identify with Madonna. Madonna employs Madonna. A professional does not take failure or success personally. When people say an artist has a thick skin, what they mean is not that the person is dense or numb, but that he has seated his professional consciousness in a place other than his personal ego. It takes tremendous strength of character to do this, because our deepest instincts run counter to it. Evolution has programmed us to feel rejection in our guts. This is how the tribe enforced obedience, by wielding the threat of expulsion. Fear of rejection isn't just psychological, it's biological. It's in our cells. Resistance knows this and uses it against us. It uses fear of rejection to paralyze us and to prevent us, if not from doing our own work, then from exposing it to public evaluation. I had a dear friend who had labored for years on an excellent and deeply personal novel. It was done. He had it in its mailing box, but he couldn't make himself send it off. Fear of rejection unmanned him. The professional cannot take rejection personally because to do so reinforces resistance. Editors are not the enemy. Critics are not the enemy. Resistance is the enemy. The battle is inside our own heads. We cannot let external criticism, even if it's true, fortify our internal foe. That foe is strong enough already. A professional schools herself to stand apart from her performance, even as she gives herself to it, heart and soul. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that we have a right only to our labor, not the fruits of our labor. All the warrior can give is his life. All the athlete can do is leave everything on the field. The professional loves her work, she is invested in it wholeheartedly, but she does not forget that the work is not her. Her artistic self contains many works and many performances. Already the next is percolating inside of her. The next will be better, and the one after that better still. The professional self-validates. She is tough-minded. In the face of indifference or adulation, she assesses her stuff coldly and objectively. Where it fell short, she'll improve it. Where it triumphed, she'll make it better still. She'll work harder. She'll be back tomorrow. The professional gives an ear to criticism, seeking to learn and grow, but she never forgets that resistance is using criticism against her on a far more diabolical level. Resistance enlists criticism to reinforce the fifth column of fear, already at work in the artist's head, seeking to break her will and crack her dedication. The professional does not fall for this. Her resolution, before all others, remains. No matter what, I will never let resistance beat me. A professional endures adversity. I had been in Tinseltown 5 years, had finished 9 screenplays on spec, none of which had sold. Finally, I got a meeting with a big producer. He kept taking phone calls, even as I pitched my stuff. He had one of those headset things, so he didn't even have to pick up a receiver. The calls came in and he took them. Finally, one came that was personal. "Would you mind?" he asked, indicating the door. "I need some privacy on this one." I exited. The door closed behind me. 10 minutes passed. I was standing out by the secretaries. 20 more minutes passed. Finally, the producer's door opened. He came out pulling on his jacket. "Oh, I'm so sorry." He had forgotten all about me. I'm human. This hurt. I wasn't a kid either. I was in my 40s, with a rap sheet of failures as long as your arm. The professional cannot let himself take humiliation personally. Humiliation, like rejection and criticism, is the external reflection of internal resistance. The professional endures adversity. He lets the bird shit splash down on his slicker, remembering that it comes clean with a heavy-duty hosing. He himself, his creative center, cannot be buried. Even beneath a mountain of guano, his core is bulletproof. Nothing can touch it unless he lets it. I saw a fat, happy old guy once in his Cadillac on the freeway. He had the AC going, Pointer Sisters on the CD, puffing on a stogie. His license plate, Jews PD. D-U-E-S, by the way. The professional keeps his eye on the donut and not on the hole. He reminds himself it's better to be in an arena getting stomped by a bull than to be up in the stands or out in the parking lot. A professional self-validates. An amateur lets the negative opinion of others unman him. He takes external criticisms to heart, allowing it to triumph his own self-belief in himself and his work. Resistance loves this. Can you stand another Tiger Woods story? With 4 holes to go on the final day of the 2001 Masters, which Tiger went on to win, completing all the four majors at one time. Completing all the four majors at one time slam. Some chucklehead in the gallery snapped a camera shutter at the top of Tiger's backswing. Incredibly, Tiger was able to pull up in mid-swing and back off the shot. But that wasn't the amazing part. After looking daggers at the malefactor, Tiger recomposed himself, stepped back to the ball, and striked it 310 down the middle. That's a professional. It's the tough-mindedness at a level most of us can't comprehend, let alone emulate. But let's look more closely at what Tiger did, or rather, what he didn't do. Firstly, he didn't react reflexively. He didn't allow an act that by all rights should have provoked an automatic response of rage to actually produce that rage. He controlled his reaction. He governed his emotion. Second, he didn't take it personally. He could have perceived this shutterbug's act as a deliberate blow aimed at him individually with the intention of throwing him off the shot. He could have reacted with outrage or indignation or cast himself as the victim. He didn't. Third, he didn't take it as a sign of heaven's malevolence. He could have experienced this bolt as the malice of golfing gods, like a bad hop in a baseball or a linesman missed call in tennis. He could have groaned, sulked, or surrendered mentally to this injustice, this interference, and used it as an excuse to fail. He didn't. What he did do was maintain his sovereignty over the moment. He understood that, no matter what blow had befallen him from an outside agency, he himself had his job to do. The shot he needed to hit right here, right now. And he knew that it remained within his power to produce that shot. Nothing stood in his way except whatever emotional upset he himself chose to hold on to. Tiger's mother, Kultida, is a Buddhist. Perhaps from her he had learned compassion and let go of fury at the heedlessness of an overzealous shutter clicker. In any event, Tiger Woods, the ultimate professional, vented his anger quickly with a look, then recomposed himself and returned to the task at hand. The professional cannot allow the actions of others to define his reality. Tomorrow morning the critic will be gone, but the writer will still be there facing the blank page. Nothing matters but that he keep working. Short of a family crisis or the outbreak of World War III, the professional shows up ready to serve the gods. Remember, resistance wants us to cede sovereignty to others. It wants us to stake our self-worth, our identity, our reason for being on the response of others to our work. Resistance knows we can't take this. No one can. The professional blows critics off. He doesn't even hear them. Critics, he reminds himself, are the unwitting mouthpieces of resistance, and as such can be truly cunning and pernicious. They can articulate in their reviews the same toxic venom that resistance itself concocts inside our heads. That is their real evil. Not that we believe them, but that we believe the resistance in our own minds, for which critics serve as unconscious spokespersons. The professional learns to recognize envy-driven criticism, and to take it for what it is, the supreme compliment. The critic hates most that which he would have done himself if he had the guts. A professional recognizes her limitations. She gets an agent, she gets a lawyer, she gets an accountant. She knows she can only be a professional at one thing. She brings in other pros and treats them with respect. A professional reinvents himself. Goldie Hawn once observed that there are only 3 ages for success in Hollywood: Babe D.A. and Driving Miss Daisy. Sorry, I think it was Babe and then D.A. and Driving Miss Daisy. I think they're the 3. She was making a different point, but the truth remains. As artists, we serve the muse, and the muse may have more than one job for us over our lifetime. The professional does not permit himself to become hidebound within one incarnation, however comfortable or successful. Like a transmigrating soul, he shucks his outworn body and dons a new one. He continues his journey. A professional is recognized by other professionals. The professional senses who has served his time and who hasn't. Like Alan Ladd and Jack Palance, circling each other in shame, a gun recognizes another gun. You Incorporated. When I first moved to Los Angeles and made the acquaintance of working screenwriters, I learned that many had their own corporations. They provided their writing services, not as themselves, but as loan-outs. From their one-man businesses, their writing contracts were FSO, for services of themselves. I had never seen this before. I thought it was pretty cool. For a writer to incorporate himself has certain tax and financial advantages. But what I love about it is the metaphor. I like the idea of being myself incorporated. The way I can wear two hats. I can hire myself and fire myself. I can even, as Robin Williams once remarked of writer-producers, blow smoke up my own ass. Making yourself a corporation, or just thinking of yourself in that way, reinforces the idea of professionalism, because it separates the artist doing the work from the will and consciousness running the show. No matter how much abuse is heaped at the head of the former, the latter takes it in stride and keeps on trucking. Conversely, with success, you the writer may get a swelled head, but you the boss remember how to take yourself down a peg. Have you ever worked in an office? Then you know about Monday morning status meetings. The group assembles in the conference room and the boss goes over what assignments each team member is responsible for in the coming week. When the meeting breaks up, an assistant prepares a worksheet and distributes it. When this hits your desk an hour later and you know exactly what you have to do that week, that was the end of that sentence. I have one of those meetings with myself every Monday. I sit down and go over my assignments. Then I type it up and distribute it to myself. I have corporate stationery and corporate business cards and a corporate checkbook. I write off corporate expenses and pay corporate taxes. I have different credit cards for myself and my corporation. If we think of ourselves as a corporation, it gives us a healthy distance on ourselves. We're less subjective. We don't take blows as personally. We're more cold-hearted. We can price our wares more realistically. Sometimes, as Joe Blow himself, I'm too mild-mannered to go out and sell. But as Joe Blow Incorporated, I can pimp the hell out of myself. I'm not me anymore, I'm me incorporated. I'm a pro. The critter that keeps coming. Why does resistance yield to our turning pro? Because resistance is a bully. Resistance has no strength of its own. Its power derives entirely from our fear of it. A bully will back down before the runtiest twerp who stands his ground. The essence of professionalism is the focus upon the work and its demands, while we are doing it, to the exclusion of all else. The ancient Spartans schooled themselves to regard the enemy, any enemy, as nameless and faceless. In other words, they believed that if they did their work, no force on earth could stand against them. The Searchers, John Wayne and Jeffrey Hunter, pursue the war chief, Scar, who has kidnapped their young kinswoman, played by Natalie Wood. Winter stops them, but Wayne's character, Ethan Edwards, does not slacken his resolve. He'll return to the trail in spring, he declares, and sooner